Hell hath no fury like Luka scorn. At least the Lakers hope so as they get set to take on the Mavericks for the first time post-trade. Will it be sweet revenge or a distraction? The Wolves mount an insane comeback on the Thunder. The Warriors can't get enough Jimmy Butler. And we play a game of play in, play off, or play on with a suddenly surging Detroit Pistons team. That's all today on Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Doug Branson, host of Locked On Hornets, and your Shot Clock Sherpa, guiding you through the NBA's biggest stories with the help of Locked On's local experts. And with me are two of Locked On's premier national NBA experts from the Locked On Nuggets podcast and senior NBA writer for the Action Network. He's the man of 1,000 podcasts. It's Matt Moore.
I found out yesterday that bananas are slightly radioactive. True fact.
They're also kind of going extinct, right? Or at least the brand that we all know and love of bananas. We might be eating a different kind of banana in a few years.
I'm not ready for a new banana world, Doug.
That explains why monkeys are so toxic.
Okay. And from the Locked On and for the Locked On Bulls podcast, you just heard him there, the Prince of Petty, it's Haize. Haize, did the Chicago Bulls officially end the Philadelphia 76ers season?
Yes and no. I think it was jump-started by Joel Embiid's knee, but the Chicago Bulls went ahead and sailed the rest of that off. So,
all right. Well, we're not going to talk much about that game in this episode. We will begin with an insane battle out west last night. The Minnesota Timberwolves got a shot at the Oklahoma City Thunder for a second consecutive night, and through three quarters, it looked like the Wolves were going to take an even bigger L than they did on Sunday. But then the fourth quarter happened. Here's Locked On Wolves host Ben Beacon with the breakdown.
Wolves were down by 25 in the third quarter. They were down 19 at halftime. They were down 24 going into the fourth quarter. They were down as many as 22 going into the fourth quarter, 24 with under 11 minutes to play. They were still down 16 with under 4 minutes to play in this game. And they came back and forced overtime with Anthony Edwards on the bench. It was the absolute perfect lever-pulling, button-pushing decision-making from Chris Finch to allow the young guys, Terrence Shannon, Rob Dillingham, at times Jalen Clark, when they were playing some offense-defense, to ride out the game with Naz and Jaden and Nikhil, who were all fantastic, was very intelligent. It would have been so easy to be like, oh, man, we got within two possessions. Let's put Ant back in the game. And then Ant gets the assignment to try and lock down SGA on the final possession. SGA tries to foul bait, misses a three because he was fading hard to his left trying to draw the foul. And the Wolves win by 3, which, by the way, was their largest lead of the game, was the 3-point winning margin in overtime for Minnesota.
Okay, I've got a few questions on this game, but at first I just want to get your takes on what was one of the more incredible games we've seen so far this NBA regular season. Matt, we'll start with you.
Oh, God, there's so much. There's so much to get to. Okay, I'll try and go fast. Terrence Shannon Jr. is legit, absolutely phenomenal, especially actually on the defensive end, curtailing and forcing drives right at the last second without fouling to make sure they couldn't get to the rim. The Thunder, this question that we have about some of their shooters really showed up in the fourth quarter of this game once again. Alex Caruso misses a bunch of big shots, wide open looks. Other guys, Isaiah Joe misses some big ones, Aaron Wiggins. These are the shots that they have to hit, and these are the ones that they keep missing in these big situations. However, they just beat the Wolves. They just beat them. Rudy Gobert doesn't play in this game, and it's like, oh yeah, they didn't even have Rudy Gobert. But that fundamentally changes the equation. One of the things I think we're finding with OKC, the secret to beating them, you want to speed them up with a physical, big 5-out. If that sounds complicated, that's because it is. That's what you really have to do. That's why Naz Reid was perfect in this game and was really good despite some pretty good defense, especially Alex Caruso in the first half. So there's some stuff we can take from this and carry it forward. But there's also a lot of missing components without Chet Holmgren in this one, who I think would have made a really big difference. But to me, Haize, there are things that the Wolves did that do provide a blueprint. It's just a very specific one for how you beat OKC.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. There's a blueprint of things that you can absolutely take away from it. But I mean, it took for the Minnesota Timberwolves going on a 39-15 run in the fourth quarter where they were down 106-82 at that time. They shot the ball 60%, whereas the OKC Thunder over that stretch shot at 15%. They went 4 of 26 from the field. I just don't know how many times, regardless of the blueprint, you get the OKC Thunder with the lead like that, they're ever going to give that up. Like it took for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Yeah, they played really good defense. It wasn't like the OKC Thunder were just missing wide open shots out there. But I just don't know how much you can take from this and try to create a repeatable blueprint, because it took such a run in the fourth quarter of this game to even get the Minnesota Timberwolves back into this game.
Do you want a wild stat here? Jalen Clark, who I think most people found out existed like yesterday. Jalen Clark matched up with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander via NBA.com's admittedly wonky tracking data. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is 5 of 17 from the field versus him in 66 matchups. Shai's only got 19 points in 3 matchups versus Jalen Clark over 67 possessions, 5 of 17 from the field, no threes. He did get to the line 11 times, so that's the cost of doing business. But Jalen Clark, Terrence Shannon Jr., those guys were so impressive to me last night for the Wolves.
So Chris Finch has to be, the head coach of the Wolves, has to be happy with his defense. He wasn't very happy with OKC's defense, saying after the game, quote, "It's so frustrating to play this team because they foul a ton. They really do. They foul. They foul all the time. And then you can't really touch Shai. It's a very frustrating thing, and it takes a lot of mental toughness to play through it." Matt, you're shaking your head. What do you think about Chris Finch's evaluation?
Yeah, they foul a lot. You know how you can tell that? Because they have the 3rd highest foul rate in the league. They get called for it. What are you complaining about? I know he's complaining about, yeah, well, they foul all the time, and then Shai gets all these calls. Okay, but they get called for their fouls, and then you get called for your fouls, and that's how this works. Like, I went back and watched last night. There was like 3 mega griffs from Shai. You're going to get that in pretty much every NBA star's repertoire. But for the most part, he drives into contact. You can't keep him away. A lot of this is like sloppy stuff, like just like putting your hands in. If you put your hands in when he's driving, guess what he's going to do? He's going to go into a shot motion, which means that you're going to have your arm on his arm, and that's a foul. I'm not saying that there's not foul grifting that goes on in the NBA. We need better allowances for defenders on the perimeter trying to contain those drives. But once you drive, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander initiates contact. These are fouls. Also, OKC is bottom 5 at free throw rate this season as a team. Shai's the only one that gets calls. So if you could just work on showing your hands and not fouling Shai, you'll be in a lot better position. I did not like this this positioning from Chris Finch, though I'm sure that he's trying to get ahead of a potential playoff series.
14 free throws by the Minnesota Timberwolves in the fourth quarter of this game. Only 6 for the OKC Thunder. Like,
That's how they got back into it.
What are we doing here? What are we doing?
That's how they got back into it, man. Like, it was just all free throws down the stretch. They made some big plays, and the defense was good. But, man, it was just a weird complaint from Chris Finch in that moment.
So the Minnesota Timberwolves, they've been a little up and down since Julius Randle went out with his injury. And they've suffered some big losses to the Cavs, the Rockets. They've also had some big wins. This one, OKC in particular. What should the Timberwolves do when Julius Randle returns? Because according to Shams, it could be as early as Monday, like a return for him and some of these other players that they've been missing is imminent. What do they do when Julius Randle returns? Do they immediately try to insert him into the role that he had prior to the injury? Or have things changed so much that they may have to rethink that, Matt?
I think you got to talk to Julius, and that's a front office decision, right? If it's, hey, we want to re-sign him, we don't want to lose him for nothing. We got to keep him happy. You make that decision. I don't have his agent in front of me, but that also matters too. Who's his agent? Is there anybody that you're trying to get that he represents? Is there anybody on the team that you're trying to keep happy that he represents? Like, this is how the NBA actually works under the scenes. Like, fans just want it to be about, but he's better. Yeah, that's nice. That is not germane to our conversation. It's the politics first and foremost. But if Julius comes in and is like, look, man, I just want to win. I don't care. I got paid. I just want to win. I'm going to get paid. I trust in this process. Like, I want what's best for this team. If he says that, you should bring him off the bench. I think he fits better with that second unit. I think he provides some stuff that second unit needs. I think Nas has been so good that it does open up things a lot better. One thing that's been notable, I looked at this, Jaden McDaniel's on-off splits before and after Randle went down are wild. I talked about Jaden's struggles earlier this season on the show. He's like a +6 versus a minus or a +2 off in the last 15 games when Julius Randle's been unavailable. it's very notable to me that Jaden excels a lot more when he's not available. So yeah, I think they should bring Nas. They should start Nas and bring Julius off the bench.
I just like the defensive versatility Nas Reed brings to this team, and especially now with hearing that he could be opting out, you may also have to look at trying to keep him happy as well. So you got to do what's best for the team. You got to do what you feel is going to put you in the best position to win, and of course that comes through talking with Julius Randle. But I love Nas Reed so much and what he brings to this team, a little bit of edge. Not to say that Julius Randle doesn't bring anything in the team. I think they have their plus when he's on the court than when he's off, but I think if Julius is willing to come off the bench, at least initially to start as you lead into the playoffs, why mess up what's working right now?
All right, let us know what you think on YouTube, youtube.com/@LockedOnNBA. You can comment, you can like the video, subscribe, tell a friend. Coming up, Matt gave us a scary Shea number. I've got some scary numbers from around the association last night. Plus, should the Mavericks be scared that Luka is about to drop a huge revenge game on them tonight? Or should the Lakers be afraid that it's going to be a distraction? The Warriors are riding high with Jimmy Butler. All of that is ahead on this edition of Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh. You save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. It's really simple. When any player scores 50 or more in a game during the 24-25 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order up to $10 off the next day from noon until midnight. Here's how to take advantage of the deal. After an epic 50-point performance, celebrate by ordering wings, pizza, or burgers from your favorite spot, delivered straight to your door. Staying up late to watch highlights or just need a midnight snack? Use Dash Pass to grab something delicious while saving big. If you need a quick and easy lunch the next day, Dash Pass gets you your favorite meals with $0 delivery fees and reduced service fees. Plus, now you can save even more with this exclusive NBA offer. If you're planning to catch the next game, order go-to snacks and meals at a discount and get ready for more high-scoring action. Sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save when any player scores 50 or more in a game. Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. More Locked On NBA ahead. Welcome back to Locked On NBA. Thanks so much for making us your first listen every day. So the numbers on that Wolves comeback, pretty scary, pretty insane. It's kind of like Severance. You guys familiar with the show Severance? You guys hip to this show?
Love that show.
Yeah, it's a great show. Severance. So on that show, they try to get rid of scary numbers. Got some guys on a computer, refiners. They're trying to get rid of scary numbers. So I'm going to task Matt and Haize with being refiners and telling me which of these other stats I've dug up are the scariest. I've got a 3-pack. Haize, we're going to start with you. You tell me which of these stats fills you with woe and sends shivers down your spine. First, we'll go to the team that Matt covers, the Denver Nuggets. Nikola Jokic notched a career-high 19 assists. That number is second only to Wilt Chamberlain, who had 21 in a game in 1968. The Wizards, in game number 57 of the regular season, became the last team to hold another team to under 100 points. And Dyson Daniels had 7 steals last night and a near triple-double. He's notched 5+ steals in 11 games this season. So, Haize, Nikola's assist, the Wizards finally finding some defense, or Dyson, the great barrier thief. Which of those numbers is scarier to you?
I'll say Dyson. What Dyson does with steals is magical. I look at just the way he plays game with his anticipation. Like sometimes you can easily overlook steals as like it's just being like a luck thing or whatever. But no, his timing on playing the passing lanes and everything is amazing. So I'll say Dyson because this is the first season he's playing like starter level minutes, and he can only be scratching the surface of this. So I'll say Dyson Daniels.
I'll say the Wizards just based off of the fact that it's terrifying that the Nets got held under 100 points because how did you get held to 100 points by the Wizards? That's scary for them. How did you possibly do that in this day and age, in this era, in the year of our Lord 2025? How do you get held under 100 points, especially by the Wizards? I think all these are really good. I am kind of like there's interesting ideas I think off of Dyson Daniels here, based off of I've been thinking a lot about playing passing lanes after that Lakers Nuggets game and the importance of it with this current era. That Wolves game last night, another good example of, hey, the Thunder played at the level and doubled a lot. And when they couldn't pick off the pass, the Wolves got easy buckets either at the rim or from three. And the reason I bring this back up is it's a little scary for Atlanta, because how does Dyson Daniels be this good and their defense still sucks this bad? That's scary. That's pretty scary.
His name is Trae Young.
I know.
Moving on, tonight, Luka Doncic will get his first crack at the Dallas Mavericks since the shocking trade that sent him to LA. The Mavs are set to take on the Lakers in Los Angeles. The word in the air is revenge. The Kamenetsky brothers at Locked On Lakers takes us inside the mentality of Luka's new squad as they prepare to play his old one.
I think they all understand what this game will mean to Luka, because this was somebody who pictured, by all accounts, and by the process of purchasing a second home in Dallas, expected to be a lifer with the Mavericks. We've heard this sentiment from a lot of players. If somebody like Luka isn't safe, none of us, other than maybe like Jokic, Wemby, SGA, like none of us should ever feel safe.
From the Lakers standpoint, from his teammates' standpoint, there is an element of punishing the thought process that makes a guy like Luka disposable.
So the Dallas Mavericks are certainly not the vision of the Mavericks that Nico Harrison had in mind when he made the trade, due to a lot of injuries, particularly in their front court. So my question, Haize, is will this really be a revenge game, no matter what the sort of box score line for Luka is? Will this really be a revenge game, or might the Lakers be in danger of getting distracted trying to serve up cold dishes for Luka?
I don't think they'll be distracted. I think Luka's going to be focused enough to where everybody's going to build off of that. This is absolutely a revenge game for Luka. The only thing that could make it better if it was in Dallas instead of in LA. But Luka's absolutely going to be out there to prove a point. Luka's also a child of the pettiness that like I am. So best believe Luka's definitely going to be out there to make a statement tonight.
Children of the Pettiness, the new thriller from Stephen King. Doug, I have a question for you, Doug. Are you excited for this game? Are you excited to watch this?
Well, it sort of goes to my question to begin this part of the segment, which is that I would be more excited if this were the version, if we were getting sort of trade for trade, if we were getting the version of the Mavericks that Nico had in mind. Because otherwise, I don't know what meaning you can take from this other than, again, just the pure petty, the pure revenge factor for Luka.
Yeah, I just, with AD out, with Daniel Gafford out, I just don't know what it exactly is. It's like, you know, when Luka has 42, 15, and 12 tonight, and they win 130 to 115, I just don't know what exactly we're going to learn from this, but it'll be a story. And I think it's great when the sport tells a narrative. I get real bothered when we try and force it based off of certain common conventions. It feels like bad writing to just shoehorn this in. Luka's revenge game versus a down bad, very injured, incomplete team on a Western Conference road trip. I'm just like, okay, cool, I guess. But I'm sure Luka will play awesome and they'll destroy them and it'll be a big story. And we'll talk about it tomorrow and we'll see what comes out of it that happens, because, hey, who knows what happens in sports?
Well, to Haize's point, when they play in Dallas, then it gets even weirder because the fans didn't want any part of this.
Nope.
So whatever damage he does, and how do they respond? Like when he starts to go, do they start cheering for Luka? That will at least be, if not sadder, it'll be slightly more interesting to see how the crowd reacts. We know how LA's crowd is going to react once Luka starts pouring it on. I don't know if Nico is going to be in attendance, but those cutaway shots would be very interesting if he is.
I guess like here's like an interesting question is like who's the leader that's going to get the Mavericks up for this, right? Because Kyrie's Kyrie, and Kyrie's was I don't think thrilled with this decision, and usually tends to not hold to norms or whatever, however you want to describe it. So like my question is like who's going to be the one in the locker room that's like, we got to win this game, all right? This is professional pride. I understand how good he is. We're good. It's not like we're trash without Luka Doncic. Let's go win this game. We're competing for a playoff spot. This is for tiebreaker. The Mavs win this game. They got tiebreaker over the Lakers, which could theoretically matter down the line. So I'm just kind of like, I wonder who's the leader for them right now, because that's a thing I think that's really missing for Nico Harrison. Even if the answer is AD, then you're in trouble. He's never been a leader. I just really question about his whole defensive leadership, defense wins championship model. You need leadership, and I'm not sure the Mavericks have it without Luka Doncic.
Haize, I think Matt is hinting at a Max Christie revenge game. I think we're all sleeping on the Max Christie revenge game.
So good. He's been so
Don't
good.
overlook Max Christie. He could also be one of the children of Petty. So there you go.
Okay, let's go to the Warriors and Jimmy Butler. They're in the middle of an extended post-deadline honeymoon. No bad feelings there. And meanwhile, the Miami Heat are really struggling. But we'll talk about them later. Golden State has won 5 of 6 since acquiring Butler from Miami. Why is it working so well so soon? Let's kick it to Chuck Walters over at Locked On Warriors for more.
Pieces of the Warriors puzzle now seems to fit in well, with Podziemski and Moody being 30-minute-a-guy players. Since that trade, they have the league's 6th best defensive rating, the 6th best offensive rating. Before the arrival, it was 10 in defense. It was 18 in offense. The net rating was 16th before the trade. It's 5th since. This is a balanced attack, and it's no surprise that Jimmy Butler has made this a balanced attack, because that's the type of player that he is, right? He does a little bit of everything. That's who Jimmy Butler is. Steve Kerr said, Jimmy gives you some swagger. And Draymond Green said, in regards to backing up his championship claims, I know what an NBA championship team looks like. This team all year had been kind of like, man, we're right there, but we just can't get over the hump. There's a reason you feel like you're right there, but you can't get quite over. And the reason is because we were missing a piece. That piece isn't missing anymore. That piece is him.
Okay, so those are some really compelling numbers there from Chuck Walter. But my question is, when you watch this team play with Jimmy Butler, are they riding a sugar high? Or, Matt, are you seeing things that you think could be, will be sustainable even in the postseason?
Both. The answer is both, because that's where we've been at the last couple of years. Is somebody makes a big move at the deadline and then they ride that high all their way to a fluky appearance in the conference finals or finals. And I think Golden State might be that team. Now, I don't buy this team long term. I just don't. I think there's a lot of egos in that room. I don't trust Draymond and Jimmy Butler to be in the locker room together that long. I think Butler will eventually revert back to the things that, not revert back, he's probably already doing them. He'll do the things that drive everybody crazy, and there will be tension, and it will cause issues. You got Jonathan Kuminga, who's going to be like, so where do I fit in when he comes back? There's, I don't think there's enough shooting. There's all these kind of problems. But look, somebody takes a trade, and then they push after the All-Star break, and they wind up making a run. And I really do think it's possible that this Golden State Warriors team could be that squad. I think this is a short-term boost that will net results that we will overreact to, that will ultimately prove fruitless. But I do think that they are capable of making a run this season, just not winning a championship.
Yeah, Jimmy's doing some really nice things. When you look at this, something that stood out is that since joining the Golden State Warriors, Jimmy Butler is averaging 9.2 free throws per game, which is the highest of his career. He's also hitting it at the highest rate at 89% of his career as well. He's shooting the 3-ball at 10%, which is that better be the worst of his career. So I think if Jimmy's gonna stay attacking, and you have players like Steph that can benefit from the way that he attacks and tries to get into the paint and those type of things, that's gonna help this team. I do think that this team can go on a run here in the playoffs. And just like Matt, I don't know how that's going to be sustainable from one season to the next, but Jimmy Butler's going to be motivated. We know how Jimmy Butler is when he's out to prove a point. He's going to be out to do that after what happened with the Miami Heat. And I think right now everything is all arms locked, kumbaya. And they can, as long as that stays for the remainder of this season in the playoffs, this is going to be a dangerous team here for the rest of the way.
Haize mentioning the free throws, that's been a huge factor. The Warriors have always been a team that loved to gamble on defense, and it just seems like that, and they did it this season, just not as effectively pre-Jimmy Butler, and it seems like Jimmy Butler just gives them somebody that can sort of spy in the middle of the floor when they do make those gambles up top and allow those to be more successful than they have been. And you heard the numbers there, the defense improving. All right, coming up on Locked On NBA, the Eastern Conference middle class they're all making cases that they could contend with the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics of the world, but no team may be making a better case than the Detroit Pistons. We'll give you more on that coming up on Locked On NBA. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Hey, watch out for the Detroit Pistons. They've won 7 in a row, and Cade Cunningham is playing at a level that is starting to garner MVP voting attention. Let's get some expert local analysis on what's changed for Cade and for the Pistons from Kuka Hill of Locked On Pistons.
Close games. They can blow teams out. They can play physical and win. They can play, offensive game and win. They can win in a multitude of ways, and we've seen that during this winning streak. The Pistons are playing great, man. They're playing like a top 7 basketball team. They're being led by their all-NBA player, man. Cade's fantastic, dude. He's delivering on everything. Cade is becoming more efficient this year because he's getting to the free throw line a little bit more, especially lately. He's getting to the free throw line a lot more, but on the season a little bit more. And he's also going to the floater a lot more. He's been great on that. He's been going to the post up and settling for that 4 or 5 foot hook shot over smaller defenders, which has been great. His touch in that in-between area has been great for him. And in this game, that like we saw in this game and the last game, he signed that Supermax in the offseason. We said, not Supermax, the rookie max extension. When he signed that, we said he had to answer the call. Once you do that, now there's pressure, major pressure for you to deliver. And he's more than delivered this year.
All right, so the Bucks, Pistons, and Pacers all tied with 32 wins apiece. The Pistons have 2 more losses. The Bucks have also won 4 games in a row. Giannis Antetokounmpo back into the lineup. I'd like to play a game of play in, play off, play on. Which one of these teams is most likely to slide back into a play-in scenario? Which team should be thankful just to get to the playoffs? And which team has the best chance of playing on into the later rounds? Matt, we'll start with you. Which ones play in? Which ones play off? Which ones play on?
Okay. Play in, I'm going to say the Milwaukee Bucks. I think that they don't have the structure underneath them. They can just slide. Like, it just wouldn't surprise me. They've got they still have injury issues. They haven't been massively impressive since the trade of Chris Middleton. They lost a big piece of their locker room. Giannis is amazing, but it's not like you're all of a sudden like, oh yeah, the Bucks have finally figured it out. Every time we think that they start to slide. Now I think the Pistons will slide too. So I think they're the playoff team where I think they're going to be lucky just to make the playoffs because you look at it, you're like, well, look, Matt, they've won 7 in a row. They're playing amazing. Cade's averaging 36 and 10 in the last couple of games. It's crazy. Last 15 games, not couple. The last 15 games, he's averaging 36 and 10. He's been sensational. If the Pistons were a little bit better, he'd be in MVP conversations. That's how good Cade's been. And he's really good defensively. But this is the peak. And every time that you're at a peak, when you're not like an elite team like Boston, OKC, Cleveland, you're probably going to slide back down. I think the Pistons probably slide back down a little bit. The Pacers are a team I think that can make a run. I still look at them and I go, this formula with what they're capable of when things click together is more dangerous, I think, than the other teams. I think that they have a better capacity to make that kind of a run. They manage their schedule a little bit better. They have fewer letdowns than the Milwaukee Bucks. So I actually like the Pacers to be the play-on team.
Okay. I'll take the play-on team. I'm going to take the Milwaukee Bucks. I just, if long as Giannis and Dame there, I don't like
boring.
I know it is boring. It is what it is. Playoff, I'm going to go Detroit Pistons. And play in the Indiana Pacers, but I still think the Pacers will make it out to play in.
Or inverted.
Yeah.
If you're into road stats as any kind of indicator of postseason success, the Bucks, the only one of those teams to currently have a losing record on the road. They're 12-15. The Pacers 15-14. The Pistons 4 games above 500 on the road.
Haize, are you worried? Hey, real quick, Haize, are you worried like I am that Detroit's going to have trouble in the playoffs because they're so young and just like that inexperience is going to hit guys like Jalen Duren and those guys?
Absolutely. And that's just with any young team. The first time they're trying to go on a playoff run, I always worry about that.
All right, let us know what you think on YouTube, youtube.com/@LockedOnNBA. Hit us up in the comments. All right, final topic here. Zion Williamson off to a strong start in 2025. Over his last 10 games, he's averaging 27, 7, and 4. And according to ESPN's Michael Wright, He's down to 264 pounds on the scale, the lightest he's been since he was drafted by the New Orleans Pelicans, and that's important for him contractually because there are some triggers in his contract that have to do with his weight. But it's also great for the Pelicans. The Pelicans had high hopes for this season, but injuries have mired any chances of postseason play. How does a new and improved and slimmer Zion change how they make their next steps? Locked On Pelicans host Jake Madison has your answer.
Doesn't like losing, and I like that they don't like losing. And so Zion, I think, is fed up with losing too. He was frustrated with the refs in the first half and really came out aggressive in the second half and was like, I got this, let me go and do it. And then he went out and he did the thing. This is important because, look, they're going to keep building around him next year. I think they will listen to offers for him this offseason, but I don't think they're going to particularly get anything that they want that makes them make a big move, though it could be smart. And it also might depend on what happens in the draft lottery. If you end up with Cooper Flagg or, someone else that you feel can be that number one guy on a team, maybe it is time to kind of pivot to a rebuild.
Okay, just a few minutes left here. Haize, should the Pelicans plan around Zion and try to win next season, or is it still time to go deeper into a rebuild after letting Brandon Ingram move on to Toronto?
Yeah, I just don't think that you can see enough that you need to see from Zion between now and the end of the season to where you can feel comfortable building around him. I just don't believe so. I'm great that he's getting the weight down. I think that is going to help him prolong his career, but you still got to see it before you believe it, at least for me with Zion.
Yeah, I don't know what you do here. I just don't know. You can't get good trade value with his injury history. You can't really move on from him. If you do, you're going to be worse. You can't commit to building around him because it's great that he's in this position, but you got to it needs to be next year. He's got to be like this or better next year, and he's got to be healthy, and everybody's got to. I have no answers for what the Pelicans need to do. They're not stuck in a situation like the Bulls where they consistently make the wrong decision because of ownership. They're trying, I think, to do the right thing. It just doesn't work out for them, and I don't know how you fix that.
I just wonder if he keeps playing at this level, can you trick a team in the offseason into forgetting about the injury history? Is that possible?
I really want to see him in Charlotte. I really do. I really want to see him in Charlotte. I think it's such a great fit. I think it's such an awesome connection, but I want good things for Doug. So I don't want him to go there and be hurt. So I don't know. I do think some team might take a gamble on him if the price is low enough, but I don't know if that makes it worth it.
No, it makes fit sense, but yeah, I mean, injury history for Charlotte right now is pretty miserable.
I think some team would be interested in Zion. The key thing is that he has that opt-out at the end of every summer that could be an emergency escape clause if you need it. It's just, what does it take to trade for Zion? That's the bigger question if somebody's willing to match that value.
All right, if you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA wherever you get podcasts, including on YouTube. Thanks so much for making Locked On NBA your first listen every single day. Enjoy tonight's action. It's going to be recapped on this feed by Locked On NBA Game Night. Be kind to each other. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On NBA.